Hey everyone, Harris O'Malley from DrNerdLove.com, and this week I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a good man. Because if you're paying any attention right now, you'll probably have noticed that the last couple weeks, months have been kind of, well, f***ing awful. Especially for women. For many, many women out there, the last month solid has been a long series of news stories, arguments, and think pieces about rape, sexual assault, and the way that society tends to grind women down. And just like it always does when we as a culture have these discussions, the usual unoriginal, edgy as a microwave marshmallow line steppers have been out there with their entirely predictable hot takes of, what if sexual assault is good? Because if you can't come up with anything worth saying, then you can at least try to turn hate tweets into money, provided the other grifters haven't sucked up the free cash first. But while the usual suspects are cheering on the dumpster fire that they don't seem to realize is about to burn their own down too, women have been forced to relive the trauma that at least 1 in 6, probably more, have dealt with in their lifetime. And as more women speak up, sharing their stories, sharing their pain, and their rage, there are guys who don't want to be part of the problem, who want to be good men, who want to know, what can they do? And the answer is, well, we can step up. We can actually stop standing around with our collective dicks in our hands, waiting for someone else to do something, and be the men that we are capable of being. Men who actually want to do something positive for the world, for our communities, and for the women in our lives. And do not get me wrong, I am not meaning this in the sense of do this, go get laid, but in the sense of that the world is chaos, we need to be kind, and we as men need to step up to the plate finally and work to make things better. And it's not like it's that hard to make things better. Most of the time, it's just some small things that we can do that actually make huge changes. And the first step is simply waking up and recognizing that as men, we are part of an invisible system of benefits and advantages and privileges that women don't have. Privileges and advantages that we are so used to that we aren't even aware that they exist until we no longer have access to them for one reason or another. Of course, if you mention this around a lot of men, you'll get the inevitable, well, how can I have advantages and privileges when my life isn't perfect? Which is missing the point. While there are definite tiers to those advantages that cut across class and racial divides, which is a topic in and of itself that I don't have time to go into here, the truth is that almost nobody has as many advantages as straight cisgendered men, especially straight cisgendered white men. There are a lot of ways that these advantages have manifested themselves, and I've written pretty extensively about it. Check out the links in the show notes. But the short version of it is that straight cisgendered men sail through life without facing challenges that women face, whether it's being given access to resources like mentors and social networks that help provide career advancement at work, or just being able to walk to our cars in a parking lot at night. It's like John Scalzi says, this is playing the game of life on the easiest difficulty setting possible. Now, the fact that you have these privileges doesn't make you a bad person, and it doesn't mean that you should feel guilty about it. And by that same token, acknowledging it doesn't automatically make you a better person. But if you are going to be a better man, then being aware of that system is important because the system is everywhere around us at all times. We can't not be part of it. It affects us and literally everyone we know, and it colors how we interact with the world around us. And this means that we as men have been insulated from the realities that women live through on a daily basis. We're off on our own little world, and when women try to share the news from theirs, we don't hear it because that's not the world that we experience. We've never lived in a world where we weren't allowed to have a bank account or credit card without our spouse's permission, where we could be fired for getting pregnant, or where sexual harassment and assault was just considered part of your daily work experience. And since we've never experienced it, we tend to assume that it can't be that bad until we find out that someone close to us has lived through this. A mother, a sister, a cousin, a friend, a lover. And a lot of times, that's the first time that we realize, oh, it actually is that bad. And it's why women get infuriated when we qualify a position that maybe sexual assault is bad, okay, with as a father, as a brother, as a son, because hey, maybe we could have figured this shit out with some basic empathy instead of framing it in how we relate to women. But that's why the next important step is to listen. I mean, that's what women have been begging men to do for decades now. Not make grandiose offers to beat all rapists to death, not make huge proclamations or lament how awful men can be, but just pay attention and believe them. Of course, this is an area where a lot of folks f*** it up because a lot of people treat the believe women hashtag as believe women, everything women say no matter what, rather than, hey, maybe don't start off by assuming that you know better about things that you weren't there for. Just about every woman out there has experienced trying to tell the men in their lives about something that happened to them, only for those men, good, supportive allies, to say, are you sure that's how it happened? It doesn't matter that the men were there, didn't see it, or didn't even know it happened before they were told. They've automatically assumed that they understand her lived experience better than she possibly could. And that's if they aren't automatically supporting the offender instead. Don't forget, the victim at Steubenville was hung out to dry as someone who was potentially ruining the lives of the men who raped her. And then, after all of that, we wonder why the women in our lives never told us about the things that they've gone through. Because all too often, we've told them that we don't believe them, that we can't be trusted to take them seriously when they do come to us. And that's without having to deal with the question of, what if their story is about somebody that we know? Because as experience has shown us over and over again, even when we do profess to believe them, we still tend to prioritize our relationship with the perpetrator over the victim. This has happened time and time again, and we have seen people do this with Harry Knowles, with Bill Cosby, with Louis C.K., with Aziz Ansari, and others. People who quietly looked the other way or asked the victims, hey, tone it down a little bit because, hey, they're a good man, they're doing good things. We don't need to tar them with this brush. They've got to be free to keep doing good things. So, if you want to be a better man, then shut up, listen, and believe. If you've realized that the women in your life never told you about what happened to them, then start being the man that they can trust with their history. Someone that they can come to and be believed. However, there is another side to this. If you want to be a better man, you need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because I'm not gonna lie, this is difficult. It is really, really hard to listen to someone tell you that things are fucked up and have been fucked up for a very long time, and that we've all been part of it. This is hard to accept because, hey, we all want to believe that we're one of the good ones. But once you've defined yourself as the good one, it's really hard to look around and realize that, hey, you may not have been as good as you thought you were. Part of being a good man is accepting that for a long time, we thought all of this was normal behavior. We grew up with movies that told us that the romantic lead setting his girlfriend up to be date raped was a good thing. Sexual assault, revenge porn, homophobia, transphobia, racism. These were all things that we were encouraged to laugh at approvingly. If you grew up in the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s, this was part of the culture you grew up with. And honestly, this underscores much of the anxiety that many men have around the Me Too movement and discussions around issues like consent and harassment. There comes a point where we realize that, consciously or not, we have perpetuated and in some cases gotten away with truly heinous behavior, and it can be hard to accept that we've done things or approved of things that hurt the people that we love and care about. Whether we showed our approval through our laughter, our disbelief, or our actions, we were part of it. We may not have meant to hurt people. We may not have realized that what we were doing was hurtful. Hell, a lot of us grew up thinking that this was perfectly normal, acceptable, and good behavior. And it's hard to hear that, especially when you want to think of yourself as a good man. It's easier to think, well, I'm one of the good ones, I couldn't have been that bad, and dismiss women's concerns as overblown or hysterical than it is to sit with it and accept it. We have to resist the urge to get defensive, to try to minimize it, or dismiss it, or rationalize it away. This is the part of the problem when people knee-jerk to say, hashtag not all men, because by insisting that not all men are like that, we are taking women's legitimate concerns and making it about us and our feelings. We are asking women to stop what they're doing and acknowledge us as one of the good ones and soothe our hurt feelings instead of, listening and taking in what they have to say. If they're not describing you, if you are not the person they are talking about, then just take it as understood that they don't mean you, they mean other people. You don't need a special sticker from them that says, hey, I'm not like that. And if you have fucked up, if you have hurt someone, God knows I have in my time, then do your best to be better, to do better. Make your amends where you can if it doesn't make things worse, and do better. Because honestly, expecting better from us and from others is the most important step. We have to be better and we have to expect better from one another. Guys, we all live in the system and we have advantages because of it. We may not have asked for them, we may not have been aware of them, but we still have them, so we need to use them. And right now, there's a few million of you playing Spider-Man on the PS4 or watching the Marvel movies, so you already know how this goes. With great power comes great responsibility. And for the rest of you who are watching My Hero Academia, I'm pretty sure they have something similar. I don't know, my knowledge of anime cuts off around 2005. But if we have those advantages and privileges, then we have a responsibility and an obligation to use them to help and support others. And part of how we do that is that we step up and speak up. One of the advantages in this system is that other men are more likely to listen to us than they are to women. So we need to speak up in support of them. If you want to be a better man, then you need to be willing to be the guy who speaks up and lends his voice. Not just in public, but in private too. Be the guy who calls out shitty behavior from other guys. Be the guy who shuts down that locker room talk, who steps in when the harassment starts. It doesn't require much. You don't have to be Billy Badass offering to let the other guy catch hands or delivering some speech about wokeness. All you have to do is be the guy that says, knock that off, we don't do that here. Be the guy who speaks up in support of survivors and make it clear you're listening and you believe them. Be the support and the backup that they need. Use your voice to amplify theirs and make sure that their story is heard. And I can already see the dudes in the comments with the insults and bad memes they've been workshopping in the crowdsourcing and shitty subreddits, and they're a perfect example of the sort of behavior that I'm talking about. These are the guys who are going to try to shut you down. They're going to try to push back and invalidate what you're doing, and they're going to call you white knight, and they're going to call you cuck, and they're going to call you beta or pussy, or tell you that so-and-so isn't gonna f you just because you spoke up for them. And that's part of how you know that you're doing what's right. These guys are afraid. They are afraid of people using their power to make things better. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of a world that may actually expect something of them. They know their level, and they know that they're not up to the challenge. But you are. You have the potential to be the man the world needs right now. We just have to take that step, and we have to take it together. We don't need to be heroes. We just need to be better. Hey, thanks for checking out my latest video. So yeah, this was a fairly heavy topic, and before I go, there's one more thing I want you to do. If you're in the United States, then as I'm recording this, we are a little under a month away from the midterm elections. If you want to be better, if you want to make the world a better place and make a difference, make sure that you vote. Grab a friend, grab 2 friends, make sure that they're registered, and go vote. Meanwhile, don't worry, we'll be getting back to the dating advice and masculine self-improvement next week. So if you have a short dating question or a topic you'd like to hear about on here, let me know. Share it in the comments or send it to me at doc@drnerdlove.com with "for YouTube" in the subject. Meanwhile, if you want to leap back to the dating advice now, then check out my newest book, I Got Her Number, Now What? This is your all-purpose guide to texting for success, and it will help turn texting from something that you dread into your dating superpower. Links to buy it are in the show notes, so go check it out. And if you do check it out, then do me a huge favor and be sure to rate rate and review it on Amazon and Goodreads. Now, if you're digging the series, then you already know what to do. Hit that thumbs up, let me know, share it around with your friends, hit the bell to make sure that you always get notified when there's a new one. If you are really enjoying these videos, if you feel like you're getting a lot out of it, if you're finding that it's helping and you really want to support the channel, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/DrNerdLove. Even $1 is a huge help. And like I always say, I can't do this without the support of my patrons, so whether you just joined me or whether you've been a patron from the beginning, thank you so much. Meanwhile, you can follow me on Twitter at @DrNerdLove, keep up with the latest news on the official Facebook page at facebook.com/DrNerdLove. And as always, hit that logo to subscribe, check out my other videos, and I will be back with you next time with more about love, sex, and dating. Later.